Today, I wanted to talk about doing motherhood alone and kind of like why I feel like as a society, we have lost so many like motherhood connections while we like journey into being a mom. Because like this whole theme, the rest of this month is making mom friends. But I really feel like there's been like this shift in society that like it's the norm now to be lonely and to be isolated and to just like be off by yourself, like holed up in your home, and just like the challenges that actually occur once you become a mom to make friends. I often ask myself, like, where did all of our support go for moms that like become moms? Like I think of back when life was harder and there was not all of this technology where we were so reliant on each other to survive, right? Like we were so closely interconnected because survival required it. Well, now if we think about like life now, we have access to so much technology and so many like improvements in our life, which I think is awesome. Like it's so helpful. Like this is just the way of the world. The way of the world is going to continue to progress, right? But I do think that that kind of ends up creating this expectation that we should be able to do things on our own. Like there's so many books and resources and videos and podcasts of like all of these like tips and tools and tricks and like, hey, if you're struggling with this, this is the answer, right? Like, and all of those are useful and necessary and good. Like we should have those. Like those things change our entire existence. But I also think that there's just like this this isolation and this loss of realizing like as moms, we need connection, we need community, we need to feel like there's someone else that is going through this thing that we are experiencing and we are not alone in our experience. I think often of the fact like just from my own experience how I was working and was working in a corporate job, and I would see my coworkers every single day, and you get to know them, but it's only on a very like professional level. Like yeah, you might get to know some workers more than others, but then as soon as you have a baby and you go on maternity leave, it's almost like you have lost this entire community that used to be around you, especially if you have a really good work culture where people are friendly and they, that community is like a big like value of your job. But if something's going on in your life, how many of us are going to like call up our coworker and like spill on them and say like, this is everything that I'm struggling with. Can you relate to what I'm going through? Do you have any suggestions? You know what I mean? Like, that's not the relationship that we have with our coworkers. And so, as soon as we go on maternity leave, it's like, wow, I've lost my connection to other people, even if it's just another adult that I can like say, how was your day? Did you have a struggle getting up today, going to work? Like even those like water cooler type conversations help us feel like, oh, we're not alone in what we're experiencing. There's someone else in this world that does the exact same thing that I do every single day. Get up, go to work, pack a lunch. You know what I mean? And I think subconsciously we recognize that, but as soon as we become a mom and we become like isolated in our homes, especially if we're having a lot of challenges with motherhood and like newborn care, and not newborn care necessarily, but like this is the first time we've ever experienced being a mom and having a baby, that it's like I know other people have gone through this, and I'm sure other people can share my experience, but there's no one else there to validate every day to say like, yeah, this is hard. Like, oh, did you sleep last night? No. I have to be with a baby all day. So do I. You know what I mean? Like even just when we see each other at work, we know, oh, your morning probably looked very similar to mine. And so I think that that is something that, I mean, let me know. Am I like totally off base here, or do you feel like this is a subconscious thing that we are aware of, not aware of, but that is playing into our community loss, this like feeling of isolation and loneliness as soon as we become moms? Now, maybe you're just like, oh, well, I still have all of my like friends and family. And I think that that is awesome for women that have that support. But there are a lot of women I feel that like that I have that in my life. And I'm so grateful and I feel so thankful that I have women that I can rely on and connections that I've made and have grown over the years. But I also think that there's a large majority of women that, because we're not having that experience ourselves, like we almost forget about the fact that there are women out there that don't have that support, right? Like we know it, but we don't really like know it, you know? Like that maybe you are in a situation where you have family and you have like a small group of friends, but maybe your friends live really far away, or maybe the family that you have, like maybe you're estranged from them, or every time you have a conversation with them and you tell them like a challenging aspect of your life, you walk away from that conversation feeling like judged or like manipulated or coerced into doing something, or like every time you have that conversation with them, you're not feeling validated in the fact of like, yeah, that's hard. Like, yeah, you're doing great. And this is challenging, but you'll figure it out. But instead, you're feeling condemned, like, oh, you need to do motherhood this way. And when I was your age, we did motherhood that way, right? I mean, like, there's a very big difference between communicating with other moms where you feel like, oh, we're sharing our experiences versus the feeling of, no, I'm being judged based off of the decisions that I'm making because I'm not making the exact same decisions that you made for your life, right? But ideally, what I really want to build here is this fact of like, I am not an expert. In fact, you'll probably hear me say that a lot over like our time together, is because I feel like we have this expectation we're hearing all the time on podcasts and in books and stuff, like these are parenting experts and this is a nutritional expert and this is a speech expert and this is like, all of these experts have really good information, but sometimes I personally feel like when I listen to an expert, I feel like, okay, if this is what I'm struggling with, and then I listen to their opinion, if their advice is not, if I'm not doing their advice to a T, if I'm not taking every single action that they're recommending, I feel condemned as a mom to say like, oh, I'm not doing it right. I need to be doing more, or I need to be just doing something different. And I don't want my I don't want you to feel like that when you come here. So for me, it's like, okay, I want to collect the experiences of other moms that have like, okay, here's an experience and this is what you're doing in your home and that's great for you. And here's another person, and this is how they do it in their home and that's great for them. And here is my experience and how I'm doing it in my home. And like, this is great for me. Where we have, I feel like, and not that any of this is wrong, but sometimes I feel like on YouTube, it's like, oh, if you aspire to have my lifestyle, if you aspire to, have what I have, this is how you need to manage your home and this is what you need to do to get it. Whereas I really want to create a culture and a community here that it's like, how can we figure out what is best for our home, like, and our all individual homes can look very differently because what's good for you may not quite be good for me and my family, and that's okay. And by collecting and sharing our experiences, we're giving opportunity to other moms to come in and say like, oh, wow, it's okay if my home looks different. It's okay if like what works for us isn't what works for everybody else. As long as it works for us, this is great. This works awesome. Now, there is a place for, like I said, there is a place for experts and subject matter, experts in certain fields. Like when we get to a point and we're like, okay, this is beyond my depth of knowledge and I need help, then yes, let's bring them in. But as a general just like vibe, I want us to feel like, okay, we can all do life together and we can make decisions that's best for our own homes, for our own families, and we can share those experiences and relate to each other. But we don't have to come in here saying, like, hey, I've got it all together, because there will probably be days where I come on here and I'm just like, hey, I'm really struggling. One of the reasons why I started wanting to do these videos more like more often, and especially in the mornings, is because like I'm giving us an opportunity to say like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, or like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, or hey, this is like a certain like experience that I had, and hopefully you find this helpful, or let me know if your experience is different. I welcome your comments. I welcome your experiences. If you want to submit a question or a topic, like drop a comment, or I also have links in all of my episodes to like submit a question. And on my podcast that I do like those because we really like dive into a specific situation, and I do try to like make those like super encouraging but also like really relatable. Like it's not like, I really hope that you don't feel like if you listen to those you're like, oh, I have to do my life exactly like hers. Like I want to give you opportunities and validate whatever decision you are making for you. So let me know if I'm like completely off base, because I never want to come across that way. Like I want this to be helpful for you, because as moms we have enough going on, like we don't need someone else telling us that we're doing it wrong, unless we're seeking the fact of like something's wrong here and I need help and something needs to change, and I need to go somewhere where I can collect a lot of different information to figure out what works for me, because I don't want you to feel condemned by making a decision. We have enough of that everywhere else in the world. You don't need to get it here. I'm going to go finish getting ready for work, but I look forward to continuing this conversation in the comments and like hearing your thoughts on this topic when it comes to community, because it is very lonely. Oh, one more thing is I've been thinking about like getting like setting up a a meetup for us periodically, so that way I can actually see your face and hear your voice, where it's not just like a pre-recorded thing. So if you're interested in like doing those like kind of like mom meetups like on like Zoom, or we might use something else like Google Meet, I haven't quite figured out all the details, sign up for my email list. That way you can be notified when I'm ready to do that. But I'm thinking that maybe we need to make a rule that you have to show up in your pajamas. I don't know. We'll kind of evaluate when during the day that is, because if it's like, and anyway, I'm digressing now. This video is plenty long enough, so I'll hang out with you again soon.